Come on up, please. Please come out here. Please stand right here. Face your foot over here. Raise your right hand.
Please solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you have today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Come on here. Raise your right up here. There's a little bit of a step, and that's the next step.
Good morning, Ms. Thomas.
Good morning.
I would like you to tell the jury your full name and spell your last and first name.
My full name is Tonya Lorraine Thomas, Thomas.
Okay. And you just sit towards the microphone and speak into the microphone, Ms. Thomas, so everyone can hear you. Ms. Thomas, are you a resident of Sarasota?
Yes,
And how long have you lived in Sarasota?
52 years.
What do you do for a living, ma'am?
I do home health aid care.
Are you licensed?
Yes.
And do you work for a particular business that sends you to different people's homes to take care of the elderly and the frail?
Yes,
How long have you been doing that for a living?
I've been doing that for over 3 years.
Did you come to be acquainted with a person by the name of Marshall Soul?
Yes,
Do you know the defendant in this case, Frank Bybee?
yes,
How long have you known Mr. Bybee?
18 years.
And have you known him primarily because he was a law enforcement officer?
Yes,
Did there come a time when Frank Bybee contacted you and asked you to work for Marshall Soul?
yes.
What did he tell you about that, Ms. Thomas?
He called me one Friday evening and asked me, was I still working? How many hours was I working? And I told him not as many hours as I would like to. And he was telling me that he had a friend by the name of Marshall and she needed some help. She wanted to come home. He gave me her telephone number and I called her.
All right. And when you talked to Ms. Soul, you and she agreed that you were going to work for her.
Yes,
Where was Ms. Soul at the time that you called her?
she was in a facility.
How did you first meet her? How did you first have a face-to-face encounter with her?
I didn't meet Miss Soul until actually that Saturday morning. She wanted me and Mr. Bybee to pick her up, and that's when I met her.
And did you and Mr. Bybee go to pick up Ms. Soul at the Consulate Healthcare Facility?
Yes.
How did you get there, Ms. Thomas?
Mr. Bybee picked me up from my mother's home.
And what was he driving?
He was driving Marshall Soul's car.
Okay, can you tell me what color that car is?
I believe the car is white.
And when Mr. Bybee picked you up, did you and he go to Consulate Healthcare?
Yes.
Tell members of the jury what took place once you and Mr. Bybee got to Consulate Healthcare.
When we arrived to the facility, I went to Marshall Soul's room, and when I got there, she asked me, "Are you Tonya?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Are you here with Mr. Bybee, with Frank Bybee?" I said, "Yes, I'm here with him." And she said, "Well, I'm ready to get up out of here." And
Did he notice that you were standing there looking at what he was doing at the computer?
yes,
Did he make any statements to you when he
Yes.
saw you there?
yes, he made a statement, and he asked me while we got in here with him, I can go and be in the room with Miss Marshall or find something else to do.
Did you notice as you were looking through Ms. Soul's home and looking at her meds that there were documents and other paperwork around the house?
Yes.
Did that cause you some concern, Ms. Thomas?
Yes, it did cause me very much concern. I saw many checkbooks. I believe I saw Ms. Marshall Soul will. There was a lot of strong documentation that I did not want in the home with her.
And why is that? Based upon your background and what you do for a living, why did that cause you concern?
Why it caused me concern, because when you have strong documentation like that, you must have a power of attorney.
Okay, all right. But not only that, but is it something that you're wary of when you're working in someone's home and all that paperwork is lying around? Is there concern about your own
My own
reputation?
Yes.
All right, and explain that to the members of the jury, please.
I would say with documentations like that, it's safe for me not to have checks, any values that could cost me my job.
All right, in other words, well, let me ask you this. Are you concerned that if something's missing, you may be accused of taking that away?
Yes.
All right. And consult with Bybee about what to do with all that documentation.
Yes, I went to Mr. Bybee and I asked him and said, Ms. Frank, this is a lot of documentation that I really do not would like to have around me. What would you like for me to do with it? He asked me to put it in a box.
All right. Did you gather up the paperwork that you saw lying around the house?
Yes.
All right. In addition to pieces of paperwork, possibly Miss Soul's will, was there anything else that you put into that box, ma'am?
I remember putting checkbooks.
All right. Anything in addition to checkbooks and paperwork?
Just the checkbook and her will. Her will.
Her will. All right. After you did that, did you give that box to Frank Bybee?
Yes.
And what did he do with that box?
He put it in the back of the trunk of Miss Marsha Soul's car.
The car that he had driven
Yes.
to pick you up and pick up Miss Soul?
Yes.
Did you ask him when you were gathering up that paperwork and expressing your concern about all that stuff lying around the house, whether he was Miss Soul's power of attorney?
Yes, I did mention that to Mr. Frank Bybee. I asked him, was he power attorney? And he said he was because she had no family members.
All right, thank you. Did there come a time when Miss Soul asked you to bring in her credit cards or her bank cards?
Yes, she did ask me.
Where was she when she asked you to gather that stuff and bring it into her?
She was in her second bedroom that we moved her in.
She had already been situated in the next bedroom?
Yes.
All right. When she asked you to bring her her bank cards, what did you do?
I looked for the card that she stated to me that it was inside the box that I unpacked, and I told her there was not a credit card in that box.
Okay, let's back up for a minute. The box that you unpacked, tell us about that. Where did that box come from?
It comes from the facility that she was there at.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It comes from the facility that she was in
Thank you.
That you picked her up that morning?
that morning, yes.
Was that box part of Miss Soul's belongings that you and Bybee brought back with you to Miss Soul's house after you picked her up from Consulate Healthcare?
Yes.
What was in that box that Miss Soul directed you to look in for her bank cards?
I believe it was her house shoes, her house dress, a mirror, toothpaste supplies, her toothbrush and toothpaste.
Okay, so personal
items, yes.
And were you able to find bank cards in that box?
No.
When you told Miss Soul that there were no bank cards in that box, what was her response?
She seemed to get very frustrated and angry and said it was. And I told her it was not.
All right. And did she ask you to consult Bybee?
Yes.
Did you bring him, or did you go ask him where the bank cards were?
At that time, I don't think Mr. Bybee was there with us. He had left to go get lunch, and I called him, and he told me, well, just get her. Okay.
All right. So he was no longer in the residence when you were looking for those bank cards?
No.
Why did you call him?
Because I had concerns about the bank card.
All right.
right. And were you concerned that you might be accused of taking those cards yourself?
Yes.
All right. What did you call Bybee on his phone?
Yes.
And did you consult with him about the bank cards?
Yes.
Did he give you some directions about the bank cards?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas, tell the jury what Bybee told you to do with reference to Marsha's missing bank cards.
He asked me to go into the kitchen and get the bank card that was on the kitchen cabinet that was no good and put it in I believe it was an envelope, and give it to her.
What kind of an envelope?
You would say a mailing envelope, one that you use to mail off.
Oh, a mailing envelope.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And how do you know that credit card in the kitchen was expired?
It's because of the fact when she asked, I picked that very card up and I took it to her.
And?
She told me that was not the right credit card.
And did you take it back to the kitchen and put it on the counter?
Yes.
And then after your conversation with Bybee, did he tell you to take that expired credit card?
Leave. Sustained.
What did he tell you to do with that credit card that was expired?
He asked me to keep her from asking questions, to calm her down, get the credit card that was in the kitchen and give it to her.
All right, thank you. Did there come a time when there was some concern about being paid by Miss Soul?
No, there was no concern. When we got there, me and her, Miss Soul, she was talking to me about what she wanted to pay me, and she asked me, was $20 an hour okay? And I told her that was fine.
All right. When you were leaving after you spent that first day with her, did she decide that she wanted to pay you?
Yes.
All right. Did she give you the $20 times how many hours that you spent there?
She calculated it. She looked at Frank Bybee and told him to go to the bank and get money.
Okay. Do you know how much money he brought back?
I believe it was $400.
All right. And of that $400, did Miss Soul take what she owed you and give you that money in cash?
Miss Soul did never give me money.
Okay. Well, how were you paid?
Frank Bybee paid me.
All right. So he counted out the money and gave it to you.
He gave me $120 the first day.
Did you come back again to work with Miss Soul, to work for Miss Soul?
Yes.
When was that, Miss Thomas?
It was Saturday morning.
The following day?
The next day.
And what did you do that morning at Miss Soul's house?
I believe I went and got Miss Soul breakfast around 8:30, and I took it to her for her to have breakfast that morning.
All right. And then what happened next?
Miss Soul asked me, did I ever go and get my tooth pulled that morning? Mm-hmm. And I told her no, because the line was long. And she asked me to go back and get my tooth taken care of.
Okay. Did you do that?
Yes.
Did you return to Miss Soul's after you had your dentistry taken care of?
Yes.
When was that?
It was Saturday, the same day I got back. It could have been around like 11 o'clock.
11 a.m. in the morning?
11 a.m., yes.
Right. And what took place with Marsha Soul once you got back to her house that following day after you picked her up from Consulate Healthcare?
When I got back to Miss Soul's residence, and I opened up the door and I went in, I heard her saying, is that Uber? And I said, no, ma'am. She said, well, I don't know what's going on, why they haven't got here yet. And I looked at her, I said, what do you mean? She said, my doctor found another facility for me to go in. And she asked me, did I have my car? And I told her yes.
Did you drive her to another facility?
Yes.
Do you remember the name of the facility?
I believe it's Keniston Manor.
It's okay. If you don't remember, that's fine. I don't want you to guess.
Yeah, I'm not quite for sure.
That's okay. And did you drive her in your own car?
Yes.
Where was Miss Soul's car?
Frank Bybee had it.
When Marcia Soul sent Frank Bybee to get money from her bank, did she give him a credit card?
I don't remember.
Okay. But was the credit card missing, and that's why you gave her that one that was on the counter that was
Yes.
expired?
Yes.
Right. Did Miss Soul say to Frank Bybee at any time you were there, take all the money you want out of my bank anytime you want it?
No.
Yeah, I have a moment, Your Honor.
You may, and when you get done, if you are complete with your inquiry, I'd like to see counsel. I'm right here for just a moment.
I don't have any further questions for you, Ms. Thomas. But
Before cross-examination, could I just see counsel here, please? Shelley, would you place that in the record?
Ms. Thomas, before I sit down, do you remember the date on which you and Bybee picked up Marcia Soul at Consulate Healthcare?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further, ma'am.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ma'am, when Mr. Bybee asked you to assist with Miss Soul, just so we're clear, you had never met her or had any interaction with her prior to that, correct?
Correct.
Hadn't even heard the name, is that right?
Correct.
All right. So you're being asked if you're available to assist, and you say, yes, I have time available.
Yes.
The exchange of numbers, did you call Miss Soul or did she call you? Do you recall?
I called Miss Soul.
And introduced yourself, I take it, and told her what your background was?
Yes.
Did you agree at that time that she was okay with you becoming her health aide, so to speak?
Yes.
Okay. How soon then did you and Mr. Bybee go and pick her up?
The next day, that Saturday morning at 9.
When you spoke to Miss Soul the day before, did she express to you that she had a strong desire to get out of where she was?
Yes.
Did she ask you to come and get her out of there?
Yes.
So the next day, you're picked up where by Mr. Bybee?
My mom's house.
You go to Consulate, is that fair?
Yes.
When you get there, you obviously have to find what room she's in, is that right?
Yes.
So you go to the room, you go there by yourself?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee's left back at the front desk, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. When you get there, you've never met the lady, so obviously there has to be some introductions.
Yes.
Okay. What was her demeanor when you first came in contact with her in her room? How was she acting?
She was acting like she was ready to get out of there.
Okay. Was she crying?
Yes.
How long do you think it took you to coordinate her and her things and get her out of the room?
It didn't take long. It took a split second because she was already ready.
Okay. I take it you then have to go by the admission desk or the front administrative area in order to check her out. Is that fair?
Yes.
Was there a bit of a scene at that location with Miss Soul and the administration?
Yes.
Can you describe it for us?
She was very aggressive towards the administrator. She was using foul language. She wanted to get out of that building.
Was it your observation that they were requesting her to sign paperwork so she could leave?
Yes.
And was she agreeing to do that?
She did not agree with them.
All right. Did you hear her order Mr. Bybee to do anything at that point?
Yes, she ordered Mr. Bybee to get her out of there.
In a strong tone?
Yes.
Were you surprised by that?
Yes.
Why?
Because I never heard anyone speak the way she was speaking.
How How long do you think it took you to get through that process before you were able to get her out to the car? Ballpark, I know it's been a while.
Could have been about a second or two.
All right. So now the three of you are in Miss Soul's car. Miss Soul in the front passenger seat?
Yes.
You're in the back?
Yes.
Mr. Bybee's driving?
Yes.
On the way, well, I don't want to assume this. Am I correct that you went from the facility then directly back to her house?
Yes.
You had never been to her house?
Never.
During that ride, I think you mentioned that Miss Soul asked about her dog.
Yes.
Is that the first you'd heard anything about a dog?
Yes.
Did she seem concerned or just was checking up on the dog?
She seemed concerned about her dog.
And Mr. Bybee, from what you recall, said what?
He told her, I told you not to worry about the dog. I was going to take very good care of the dog.
And was she satisfied with that?
Yes.
At no time while you were driving from Consulate to her house did she complain of the fact that Mr. Bybee was driving her car, did she?
No.
And in fact, she asked him specifically, how much do I owe you for getting my car fixed? Is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall what his response was to her question about that?
Yes. He told her, I told you not to worry about it. I'd take care of it.
All right. Was it your impression while you were with Miss Soul and Mr. Bybee that she would repeatedly offer him money for things that he had done?
I'm going to object to the form of the question.
Overruled.
Ma'am?
Can you repeat it again?
Absolutely. And I apologize if it was not clear. Was it your impression while you were with Miss Soul and Mr. Bybee that she was repeatedly offering him money?
Yes.
And what was his response when she would offer him money?
He would turn it down.
When, step back for a second, when you were at the facility and Miss Soul was acting the way she was acting, were you concerned that she may be on a lot of medication or she was
Objection. Not competent to testify. Calls for speculation.
observations, Your Honor?
Based on her observations and based on her training and profession, I think she can handle this question. It's overruled.
Were you concerned that she was on a lot of medications and she may be suffering some aspects of dementia?
Dementia.
Why do you say that?
I have seen this plenty of time in my field where a person with dementia is very aggressive, confused, combative.
And is that what you observed Miss Soul being?
Yes.
And that's why you reached, at least thought that was an issue, right?
Yes.
And it's not something where you can say to the patient, ma'am, do you suffer from dementia? You didn't do that.
No.
Okay, just through your observations.
Yes.
Was Miss Soul verbalizing on the ride home that she was appreciative of you guys coming and getting her out of there? Did she tell you guys that?
Yes.
Any more tears, or were the tears gone at that point?
Tears was gone.
All right. When you get to Miss Soul's home, first time you've been there, correct?
Yes.
So you have to familiarize yourself a little bit with the layout. Is that fair?
Yes.
When you went into the home, was it a situation, Ms. Thomas, where you immediately saw medications, or was it until Ms. Soul asked you to go get it?
Not until she asked me to go get it and where to go get it.
Let's talk about where you found various medications. When she directed you the first time to go get her medications, where'd you find them?
In the kitchen.
How were they laid out, if you recall?
In her medicine box.
Was there a lot?
Yes.
You ever seen those strips that have Monday through or Sunday through Saturday? Or did you see those?
Yes.
Is that what you brought to her, or did you bring something else?
No, that's what I brought her.
Was she satisfied with that, or did she tell you that's not what I'm looking for?
Yes, she did say that's not the medicine I'm looking for. So I went, there was another one, and I brought her the second one with Sunday through Saturday.
Now, when you saw these medications, that caused you some concern. Maybe I'll use the phrase red flag if that's correct. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you explain to us why?
I had no documentation of what she was taking, and it was too many pills that I seen mixed up together.
Did Miss Soul seem to have her wits about her that she knew what the pills were? Despite what you weren't aware of, but did she seem to?
She
know?
seems to know what she was taking.
Any conversation or questions of her about, hey, do you need some help with that? Do you know what you're taking? Anything along those lines?
No.
Did you see her take any medications?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
I don't recall how many, but I did see her take some.
And that was a concern for you, because you didn't know what they were or how many there were.
Yes.
All right. You mentioned that there was a discussion with Ms. Soul about what it is or that you're going to charge for your services. Is that fair?
Yes.
Is that the first time you had that discussion, is when you got back to her house?
Yes.
Was there a negotiation between you and her, or did she ask you how much you typically charge, anything like that?
It was not a negotiation. She asked me, and I told her.
And agreement, no issues?
Agreement with no issue.
Do you recall that once you had that discussion, that she gave a bank card to Mr. Bybee and said, go and get me $400?
Nope.
CC? All right. Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Ms. Thomas, I'm going to show you what I've marked just for identification to defendants exhibit CC. And I'm going to draw your attention to page 18, line 18 through 22. Please read that to yourself.
Sorry, what lines were they?
18 through 22.
Your Honor, I don't have my glasses.
Uh-oh. Let's see if we can find a pair of cheaters for you here.
Okay, you had a chance to look at that? The cheaters help? Ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. So, back, at least on July 18th of 2017, when you were deposed under oath, you were asked the same question, correct?
Yes.
And you now recall, after having a chance to review your transcript, that In fact, Ms. Soul told Mr. Bybee, go get $400, go get in the car, go to the bank or ATM and pull out that amount of money.
Yes,
Okay, that refresh your memory?
yes,
All right. Now, did you actually see Mr. Bybee leave and go do that?
yes, I did.
And I think you said Mr. Bybee also went and got something to eat for you folks, is that right?
Yes,
Was that at the same time or did he leave twice?
at the same time.
Did Ms. Soul direct Mr. Bybee where to go get food, if you recall?
Yes,
Remember where?
Morton's, yes,
Okay.
Morton's.
Any idea how long he was gone?
I would say approximately about an hour and 30 minutes,
Okay.
close to 2.
Now, Ms. Thomas, when you were at Ms. Soul's home, and I think it was for 2 days, is that fair?
Yes,
Did you see any other folks coming and providing assistance to Ms. Soul? Any other people coming and going?
no.
All right, you said no, and now you're shaking your head yes. You gotta help me out here.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I did see someone come in.
Do you know who that was?
No, I don't.
Did you see the interaction between that person and Miss Soul?
No.
And I'm making an assumption that they had interaction with Miss Soul. I apologize. You know what the person was there for?
No, I don't.
Okay. So when Mr. Bybee gets back, it's your testimony that he then provided you the $120?
Yes,
Do you know what he did with the remainder of the money, or what Miss Soul told him to do with the remainder?
he put it in a cookie jar.
Okay. Was that the only time over those 2 days that you were paid? Or were you paid the second day also?
I was paid the second day,
All right. How much the second day?
160.
So a total of 280.
Yes,
Who paid you the second day?
I paid myself.
Okay, can you give us an explanation or description of how that happened?
It was told for me to go and get my pay out of the cookie jar.
Who told you to do that?
Marcia Soul.
And you did that, correct?
Yes,
And did she tell you how much to get?
yes,
160, and that's what you went.
that's it.
When you went to the cookie jar and you got the 160 out, was there other monies in there?
Yes,
But you didn't take it out and count it, so you can't really tell us what was in it.
no,
Fair? Okay. Now, was it the second day when you were there, you said you brought breakfast, is that fair?
yes.
What time do you think you got there with breakfast?
Approximately between 8 and 8:30.
Did you not? Did you just go in? Could you describe that for us?
I never knocked. I went inside. The door was open.
Door was open.
Yes,
Were you previously told that the door was going to be open and you could just come in?
yes.
Who told you that?
Mr. Bybee did.
Okay. So when you got there that morning with breakfast, the door was open, you went right in.
Yes,
Where was Miss Soul?
in her bedroom.
Was she awake, sleeping?
She was asleep.
Did you wake her up or did you wait for her to awake?
I woke her up.
Was she surprised that you were there?
Yes,
I take it you gave her the breakfast, or did you help her get up and get going that morning?
no, I gave her breakfast.
Is this when you then had to go for your tooth pull?
Yes,
You let her know that, I take it.
yes.
And what time do you think you left for your tooth pull?
Maybe approximately 5 minutes after I gave her breakfast.
So you were there pretty quick.
Yes,
What you said you returned, I think it was ballpark 11-ish? Is that about right?
yes,
Mr. Bybee was not there, correct?
correct.
And how long did you stay at this time?
When I returned,
Yes, ma'am.
it could have been maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Just for clarification, when you returned to Miss Soul's home, is this when you found out for the first time that she was waiting for Uber to go to another facility?
Yes,
Had you been told that before, or was that a surprise?
that was a surprise.
So, she expressed to you she was a little tired of waiting for Uber and asked if you could take her.
Yes,
And in fact, you did in your car. Is that
yes,
right?
yes.
When you took her to this facility, Ms. Thomas, did she take anything with her? You referenced this box of toothbrush, toothpaste, gowns, and things. Did she take anything with her?
No,
She just went, her with her clothes on her back.
yes,
The box that we referenced where there was her nightgown, her personal items, is that fair?
yes,
That was something that she took with her when you picked her up the day before from consulate, is that correct?
yes,
That was what was already packed.
yes,
When you took Miss Soul and were driving her, did she verbalize or express to you that well, let me withdraw there for a second. Was Miss Soul calm when you were driving her?
no.
Can you describe that for us?
She was in an uproar.
Okay.
In a what?
Uproar.
Yeah, thank you.
And what was she in an uproar about?
She felt like Mr. Frank Bybee had took control of her life, took her life away from her, and was doing stuff unaware to her knowledge.
And at the same time, would she then switch over and express to you that he was kind and doing things for her? Kind of like a change in personality?
No, she seemed very angry with him.
Anger. Had you seen this anger from her the time that you were there the day before?
Only the time when we went to the nursing home to get her.
Her expressing this to you, that you were driving her to the facility, was that a surprise to you?
No, because I seen it when we went to pick her up from the nursing home.
So, kind of the same personality trait.
Yes.
How long do you think you stayed at Miss Soul's home the first day when you brought her home? I don't think we've ever talked about what time you left, but how long do you think you were there?
I think I was there, could have left around like between 4:30 and 5.
And how did you leave and get home?
Mr. Bybee took me.
And is that when you, did you let Miss Soul know you'd be back the next day?
Yes,
And the next day you got back there about 8:30, fair?
yes.
Miss Thomas, I asked you whether you recall folks coming in and out of Miss Soul's house while you were there that had her credit cards also. Do you recall that question?
Repeat it again.
Yes, ma'am. Do you recall that while you were there were 2 or 3 people that went in and out of her house with credit cards?
I didn't see it, I heard.
What does that mean?
There was a conversation that there was someone else with a credit card.
Okay. Let me show you what I'll mark as Defendant's Exhibit D for identification. You were interviewed back on January 25th, 2017 by Detective Gata and Detective Shirtley. I'm going to draw your attention to page 8, date stamp 762, and if you could just read the highlighted section to yourself and tell us when you're done. Do you remember telling Detective Gata on January 25th, 2017 when you were interviewed? There were 2 or 3 people that went in and out of her house that had her credit card?
This statement is not on here, right? I remember telling her I heard there was 2 or 3 people that had credit cards.
And who would you have heard that from?
The conversation between Miss Soul and Mr. Bybee.
And was it Miss Soul indicating that 2 or 3 people had her credit cards?
Yes.
And that she had given them authorization to use that?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I retreat?
Sure.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Redirect?
Yes, thank you. In that same part of the interview with Detective Gata, you also explained to Detective Gata that Bybee was gathering up all kinds of checkbooks that belonged to Miss Soul that were lying all over the house?
Yes.
And did you tell him, if you're going to be the power of attorney, you need to get all these checks, you need to get them?
Yes.
When Bybee took you home from Marcia's house after that first day that you worked for her, what car did he drive to take you home?
Miss Souls.
And do you know what happened to those checkbooks and documents and the will and that other paperwork that Bybee put in Miss Soul's trunk of her car that day?
No, ma'am.
Now, you did tell us that based upon your background as a home health giver, that when people take a lot of medications, they sometimes become confused, and that she exhibited signs of confusion?
Yes.
All right. Now, let me ask you, when you and she talked about her salary, was she able to calculate $20 times how many hours and know how much you were to be paid?
Yes.
Did she have any difficulty doing the math?
No.
Was she able to direct you to where her medications were in the kitchen?
Yes.
And when she recognized that the medications that you first brought her were the wrong ones, what did she ask you to do?
To go back and get the other medicine box that her meds was in.
Was she able to recognize that first batch of medications was not the correct batch?
No.
Wait. Did she send you into the kitchen to get some meds?
Yes.
All right. When you brought those to her, did she recognize that they were not the ones she should be taking?
She did. That's why she asked me to go back and get the other.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now, that second day that you went over there, she appeared to know that she had called the Uber guy.
Yes.
And did she also state to you that she was expecting the Uber driver?
Yes.
The next day, did she know that $160 was owed to you?
Yes.
And did she have any trouble doing the math that second day?
No.
Was she able to clearly tell you where you could find the money?
Yes.
And did she tell you specifically the amount of money to take out of that cookie jar?
Yes.
What was Bybee's tone of voice when he saw you standing behind him when he was working on Marcia Soul's computer?
Very upsetting, aggressive.
Aggressive?
Yes.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Subject to recall, folks.
No,
No, you're not.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas, thank you very much, and you are discharged from your subpoena.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to call your doctor. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain to the jury what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, the general course of a trial, as I explained to you at the beginning of the trial, is that the state presents its case, and then the defense will have the opportunity to call witnesses if they wish after the state is arrested. Because of a scheduling issue, we're going to actually allow one of the defense witnesses to testify now. It's a little bit out of order. I don't want you to be confused about this. This is a defense witness being called. All right? It's just a little odd to do it this way, but sometimes we have to do it. That's what's going to be happening at this time. Mr. Lakin?
You call doctor, he's Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
I'd ask you to speak into that microphone and speak up a little bit.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Can you just state your name for the record, ma'am?
Lisa Tichenor,
Okay. Can you tell us what your occupation is?
emergency medicine physician.
Can you just tell the jury a little bit about your educational background?
Pre-med, University of Florida, med school, Nova Southeastern. I did emergency medicine residency in Michigan, and then I have been working in Sarasota for over 16 years.
Okay. Can you tell us what you do at you work at the Sarasota Memorial Hospital?
I do.
Okay. What is your typical duties at the hospital as of now?
Full-time emergency medicine, treating all patients for all different kinds of illnesses and injuries.
Okay. Is it a set shift? Do you alter the times? Or how does that work?
All different shifts. Anywhere from, well, I don't do early mornings, but afternoon, evenings, nights.
Okay. At some point, I'm going to call your attention to January of this year. Did you have an opportunity to see a patient named Marcia Soul?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me from your personal memory what the circumstances were? Do you remember that particular? I know you've treated a lot of patients. Do you remember that particular patient?
No, only from reviewing records.
Okay, that's something you've done recently?
Yes.
Okay, and those are records you reviewed relative to the time frame that she was at the hospital?
Yes.
Doctor, I represent you. There's some medical records that have been submitted as evidence in this case, and I'm going to ask you some questions about that. The records that you looked at, can I approach you?
You certainly may.
Why don't you sit in? Defense exhibit, which is document. It's a top part of that. Right below where it says Wilson, on the second left level, it says 11217. See that?
Yes, I do.
And then right above that, as you go in,
Yes.
okay. And this is one of the documents you looked at.
Yes.
And at the very bottom of that document points out to
Yes, I do.
Why is that there? What's the reason?
Well, that was one of her diagnoses given.
What is that medical suite? What does that mean?
It means you're concerned about things.
Competence.
Let me ask you these questions. Can you give us a background on whether or not, in terms of your training as an emergency room physician, you've studied psychology or psychiatrist in terms of treating patients at all?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us what that is, briefly?
Well, I mean, we're trained to treat all kinds of diseases, illnesses, and that includes psychiatric, or at least to observe their behavior and decide if they need a psychiatric evaluation by a psychiatrist.
And that's based on certain symptoms that may be illustrated to you?
Yes.
Okay, and then you make those observations and you note those observations.
Correct.
And that takes a certain amount of medical training to do that.
Yes.
And that's training that you obtained?
Yes.
And let me ask you that, you said 16 years or so you've been practicing?
More, just in Sarasota,
Okay.
16 over.
Can you tell me roughly, and this is a very open-ended question, how many patients you might have evaluated and looked at with respect to mental health issues? Hundreds? Thousands?
Yes.
Objection leading.
Definitely a lot. I can just say a lot.
Okay. And so the time the Marcia Soul show appeared, you believe you have the training, education, experience to make that observation?
Sustained.
Okay. Well, you made an observation of her, right?
I did.
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Tell me on that date, you spoke to her.
I did.
Okay. Tell us about what happened. What happened when you
Objection.
spoke to her? What happened?
What is the legal basis for the objection?
I withdraw the objection.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead. You can answer the question.
Well, I would just take her history and then document what she said.
Okay.
And then, evaluate her and figure out where she hurts and just discuss her emergency visit.
Right. And that included what observations?
Her physical exam, whatever I've found, and whatever she said or her behavior or how she spoke.
Did you have any observation with respect to mental health?
Objection competence.
Judge, I submitted based on her responses that she's more than qualified.
Once again, come forward here. I don't want to discuss this in front of the jury. Issues that I have to work through here to reach a legal decision that I have to make. So why don't we take our morning break? I don't want to inconvenience you. It's about that time. So go use the facilities. We'll take 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll call you back as soon as I'm ready again.
All right, Spirit leaving.
Doctor, I'm going to ask you to step out of the courtroom as well, because what I'm going to say may impact on your ability to testify in this case. All right, so if you don't mind just stepping out for a couple minutes. All right. I am, for the record, looking at a Sarasota Memorial Hospital document, which is labeled EE in this case. The document is entitled Documents Review Report. It is Marcia Soul is the patient. The date of admission is 12 January 2017, and the provider, meaning the doctor, would be Dr. Tichenor. This also entitled Patient Education, and it's authored by Ms. Wilson, who's a nurse. Her first name is Kvamonie, Michael, for the record. Kvamonie Wilson, nurse, authored on 1/12/2017 at 8:59:38 p.m. The document itself is clearly in the court's view a document provided to Miss Soul by the hospital, because it reads as follows. You seem to be having hallucinations and or delusions. You may be hearing voices that no one else can hear. This can seem very real to you. You may be having thoughts and fears that do not make sense to others. This condition can be due to mental disease like schizophrenia. It may be caused by a medical condition, such as an infection or electrolyte disturbance. These symptoms are also seen in drug abusers, especially those who use crack cocaine and amphetamines. Drugs like PCP, LSD, MDMA, peyote, and phencycline can also cause frightening hallucinations and loss of control. If your symptoms are due to drug abuse, your mental state should improve as the drugs leave your system. Someone you trust should be with you until you are better to protect you and calm your fears. Often tranquilizers are very helpful at controlling hallucinations, anxiety, and destructive behavior. Getting a proper diet and enough sleep is important to recovery. If your symptoms are not due to drugs or do not improve over several days after stopping drug use, you need further medical and mental health care. See immediately mental health care if your symptoms get worse, especially if you think your life is in danger. And second, you have violent or destructive thoughts. Following up by it says, recovery is possible, but you have to get proper treatment and avoid drugs that are known to cause you trouble. Follow-up instructions. ASAP, Dr. Brad Lerner, with Dr. Lerner's address and telephone. And then in big letters it says paranoia. An explanation of paranoia, taken from I don't know where, is as follows. Paranoia is a distrust of others that is not based on a real reason for distrust. This may reach delusional levels. This means the paranoid person feels the world is against them when there is no reason to make them feel that way. People with paranoia feel as though people around them are out to get them. And then it says, copyright 2017 Exit Care LLC, 1/12/2017 at 8:59:37. What is this?
That is a medical record. Over 3,000 pages of records. Now it's evidence.
Okay.
There is, in fact, if I ever got a chance to continue the questions with this, the borderline personality sort of definition, because what this witness is going to testify is that she took the time, and it says on here, attending care for it has her name, and the nurse, right? Nurse Rose. And she was going to testify that she had a chance, that she was concerned about the student's mental health. So on her own volition, she did some research of borderline personality disorder due to some of the symptoms. But she has every right to do as a treating physician. She then says in her findings what she believes she has. Okay? And she writes that in the record, which is evidence in this case. The state stipulated all medical records from the Sarasota Memorial Hospital. So I believe she has an opportunity to at least opine that she looked at this condition and that the conditions, which include for irritability, anxiety, irrational spending of money, attempted suicides, severe mood swings, including depression, lasting feelings of memory, all things we refer to on case.
Where is that taken from?
The Sarasota Memorial.
No. Where is that? Those words, where is that taken from?
That is from the doctor's research of borderline personality, which she included in her records for symptoms. In other words, she
So let me just make sure I've got this straight, because this is really important, Mr. Lake.
Sure.
What I have here is an emergency room physician who treated Miss Soul for physical symptoms that she was brought into the hospital for. She recognized certain things that caused her concern as to Miss Soul's mental capacity, whether mental illness may be a component of what she needs to be treated for. She then goes and does some independent research, which indicates to me that she doesn't know the subject matter before she actually makes a diagnosis, and then makes a diagnosis from some medical book or some medical journal or whatever, and then makes that diagnosis and places that diagnosis in the records of the hospital. Have I got that right?
She does research to determine that she may, that the soul may have a condition of borderline personality disorder. She includes that in the chart. And she makes her own observations based on the
She can testify as to her observations, but again, I'm going back. I just want to make sure I've got this straight. I'm sorry, what is her name? Tichenor is an emergency room physician.
Yes.
Who has some concerns about the possibility of mental illness. She does not, at that time, make a diagnosis of a mental illness. She goes and does some independent research into borderline personality disorder, a subject matter which she is not obviously familiar with because she has to do the research, and then takes that research and places that research in the record and says this is a possibility.
Keep in mind, based on
Am I right?
yes.
Okay.
But keep in mind, it doesn't obviate the fact that she has the professional training to observe and write down what she perceives the patient has. It's not just physical manifestations. The record is replete with mental health notes, issues on this woman. And there's evidence in this case. And so my position is that she made observations, she wrote notes all over the place. And that should, this jury has a right to hear that. And that's the position that I take. Let them decide. If cross-examination brings out issues that she's not trained properly, psychiatry, so be it. But the point is she still made these observations, noted these observations, and I believe the jury's right to hear that.
Your Honor, I disagree. First of all, these observations of paranoia do not come from her. It's a generic.
I have no idea what this is. This is a follow-up sheet. When you're discharged from the hospital, they hand you a bunch of stuff.
Exactly.
A bunch of paper. It's extra
Right.
paper.
And where
So it's not a medical record.
It's not a medical record, and whoever decided to give her a handout about paranoia, that is absolutely irrelevant.
Well, I don't know if it's paranoia or it's drug use or
Exactly.
it's schizophrenia. I don't know what it's for. but
It's just a.
I know paranoia is being advertised at the bottom of this thing, and the presumption or the assumption the jury is going to have by looking at that is, well, she's been diagnosed with paranoia. Boom, here's paranoia.
Yes, it's a plethora of diagnoses that may apply to anyone who ever wanders into the ER and sees Dr. Tichenor. Furthermore, Your Honor, it has not been established that she has any psychiatric background, despite the fact that she may have had a class or two in psychology or psychiatry when she was in law school. She is not competent to make, medical school. She is not competent to make a diagnosis. In fact, the words out of her own mouth are that she has to figure out if a psychiatrist should come on board to make a diagnosis. So she's not qualified for that. Furthermore, she says she took the history and documented it and figured out where she hurts. Does that mean her brain hurts? What does that mean? She noted her behavior, she noted how she spoke. Of course, those things could come in, but she is not entitled to say that this woman has borderline personality disorder.
Can I just see that record?
And if she did say that on her report, she is overreaching, Your Honor, because she's not trained for that.
Dr. Werner is qualified to testify as to.
He's a medical.
I'm sorry, I didn't allow him to testify about her mental.
He surely testified in length about that.
Well, what did he do about her mental condition? He referred her to specialists in the area. Borderline personality disorder. Again, this is a exit care patient information. This is the same thing that I just read, only this has borderline personality disorder as opposed to paranoia.
So if the doctor's notation, one that she created, which is evidence in the case, she writes down, my observation is X, Y, Z. Is the court's position that that's not admissible?
No, absolutely not. She can testify as to her observations. Whether she can testify as to a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder or paranoia is another thing. I haven't heard anything that would qualify her to make that type of diagnosis. I just want to I just want to look at the record here of her examination, of Ms. Soul's examination.
The analogy there, though, with all due respect to the court, if the person comes into the Sarasota Memorial Hospital emergency room, has a knee injury, and the doctor's a DO, that the doctor writes down, this is an orthopedic condition, which is X, Y, Z. That's not admissible.
Let me give you a better analogy, Mr. Lakin. Let's say that you're in practice and you're a very successful attorney and somebody comes to you and has a patent issue. And you're not familiar with it. It's not your area of expertise. You may have taken it in law school. You may have some understanding about it. But there are specialists who specialize in the area of patent law. You would refer that person to a patent lawyer. If you are a doctor, a medical room or an emergency room doctor, you may have some concerns, and what do you do about those concerns? You are not qualified to make diagnoses of mental health issues. Psychiatrists and psychotherapists may be, but you're not. So you refer them to somebody else who specializes in that area.
I understand, and I appreciate the analogy. I think, though, because the record is evidence in the case, she writes those observations.
Well, have these been entered by stipulation?
Yes.
All right, so the records are there. But her testimony, these things here, to me, are not medical records. These are discharge forms. And some nurse grabs a bunch of discharge forms and hands them to the person on the way out the door. The records are what I'm seeing here, and these are the treatment notes. And I'm going to take a couple of minutes and I'm going to read these treatment notes.
And Your Honor, if I may just clarify something, I did not expect, nor would I have agreed to have generic forms that were handed out to a patient on her way out the door in a wheelchair to be entered into as some kind of substantive evidence.
Judge, I'll represent to the court the record. Complete documents, this thick, so 3,000 pages. That's.
Well, if it's filled with a bunch of things that look like this, it's a bunch of fluff. The records are the treatment records and the treatment notes. The treatment records and the treatment notes are what really control the day. So let me take a look at, let's see, we've got provider Dr. Ding. I don't want to see that. Provider Dr. Ding. When did she see Dr. Ding?
He is testifying tomorrow morning. He will be testifying that he first met her on the 16th or 15th and 16th, and that he performed several mental diagnostic tools.
Judge, which witness are we talking about?
Dr. Ding, D-I-N-H.
Pronounced
Din.
D-I-N-H.
All right, I'm looking at the records of Miss Dr. Tichenor, so give me a couple of minutes. All right, I've reviewed Dr. and I don't want to mess your grouping of these up, so I don't want to undo them.
That's okay.
I read Dr. Tichenor's report, and it seems to be Dr. Tichenor's report. There is no mention in Dr. Tichenor's treatment notes about her, Ms. Soul's, psychological issue other than on the first page of her report when it discusses psychosocial behavioral assessment, behavior appropriate with situation and age, and family observations, no family at bedside. These treatment notes and her, meaning Dr. Tichenor's, own observations can be testified to. Documents such as this exit document here with borderline personality disorder on it and paranoia on this one here cannot be entered into evidence. I don't see them as medical records or treatment records or diagnostic records. That may be, but I'm looking at these personality disorder and paranoia notes here, Mr. Lakin, are notes that are directly addressed to 12 January 2017. Apparently those were given to Ms. Soul at the time of her discharge because there may have been some concern about that. And if there was a referral to psychiatric help, then certainly those are appropriate to give her. They're not a medical record. So I'm excluding those, but will allow testimony as to the doctor's own personal observations. All right, we've been at this for 20 minutes. Why don't we take a 10-minute break and then bring the jury back, because I know I need a little rest myself.
All right.
That's EE one.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's bring the jury out.
Your Honor, before we bring the jury out, I'd just like to have you caution Mr. Lakin not to talk to sworn witnesses when they're on break, please.
I shouldn't have to caution Mr. Lakin
I know.
about that.
I understand.
Let's make sure that doesn't happen.
I understand.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All rise for your entering.
Please be seated, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for taking up more than a lot of time, giving you a longer break, giving you a longer break. But it was necessary because I had to work my way through some issues that had arisen because of that. Before we took our break, Dr. Tichenor was on the stand talking about a particular document called Testifies. And I reviewed this particular document. What this is a discharge form. It's not a medical record. Some of you may have been to the hospital before. I went and had a knee replacement. When I left, I found a form looking like this, a discharge form that has high blood pressure. I don't have high blood pressure. So it is just a discharge form that is handed to people when they leave. It is not a medical record, nor is it a diagnosis. It's simply an exit form given to patients when they leave the emergency room. So please disregard the paranoia. That is not a diagnosis at this point. That diagnosis has not been put before you by any professional at this point. Thank you. Doctor, I apologize for keeping you tied up for a little while, but it was something I needed to work out with counsel, so
Okay.
apologize for the delay. You may inquire, Mr.
Thank
Lakin.
you, Your Honor. Doctor, I appreciate your patience. No pun intended. You brought some records today?
I did.
Okay, and the records that you have in front of you, what records are those records?
They're the emergency visit that when I took care of the patient.
Okay, and those are records that you prepared?
Yes.
Okay.
At that on that date.
And you've reviewed those records today?
Yes.
And you're familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back to what I asked you about when you first observed Marcia Soul at the hospital. Can you tell me and you might want to pull that out to refresh your memory if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me the date or the time frame that she was there when you first saw her yourself?
Yes. At 3:53 p.m. on January 12th.
Okay, and that was the first time you ever met Marcia Soul?
Yes.
You never treated her, you knew nothing about her?
Correct.
Okay, what were your observations then?
You mean my diagnoses?
Well, I want you to give me the whole picture from what you remember.
Well, that's like several pages.
Just take your time, and if you want to just go through things you can recall.
Well, I mean, basically every chart's the same. She gave a history of what she thought was going on, and then where she hurt
Where was she complaining of her pain?
in her face.
Okay, did you know any observations of that?
I noted abrasion, basically scratches and bruising and slight swelling to her lips in my physical exam.
Okay. Did you diagnose any broken bones, broken nose, or anything like that?
No, we did CAT scans of her head and face and neck, and there was no noted trauma.
Okay, there was no noted trauma?
Objection leading.
Sorry.
Overruled.
No noted trauma.
Right, by the, on the CAT scans, correct.
Okay. What else did you observe?
Then we review her medical history.
What
and
was that?
She had a heart disease and cancer and thyroid, and then she had a history of delusional and paranoid.
Objection, that's not medical history.
It is referenced in the records as her medical history, overruled.
You can continue.
Well, she had a psychiatric history,
Go ahead.
which and I also had consulted her primary care doctor, who knew her obviously, and said that she had a history of delusions and paranoia and borderline personality disorder.
Okay. And then what did you do then? Did you continue to evaluate her?
Yes, and we had social work get involved and try to decide if she needed to be kept. She didn't need to be admitted for medical or physical trauma reasons, so then we had to decide, if she was safe to go home or not. So social work got consulted for that.
Okay, was there a decision to be made where she would go next from the emergency room?
Yeah.
What's the dynamics there?
Yeah, ultimately she was discharged to home with, it says caretakers.
Right. Do you know whether she's moved to another unit?
No, this particular visit, it appears she was discharged home.
Okay, and that was on the 12th?
Yes.
Have you learned that she was there longer? Do you have any independent knowledge?
I learned by reviewing records she came back like the next day, and then she was, I believe, sent to a psychiatric facility.
Objection, competence.
Okay. She just tested.
I'm sorry. Legal objection.
Competence, she says, I believe.
No,
she doesn't have any knowledge of it.
She reviewed records that indicated that.
Well, then if the records say, then she
It's
doesn't
out
believe it.
there.
Can I
Objection is
continue?
overruled. You may
Yeah, I'd like to
continue.
question my witness. Thank you. Now, after that time frame, did you have other observations with her of this patient at later points?
Only this particular visit on the 12th.
Do you know whether or not there was any assessment during falls or anything like that? Do you have any memory of that?
Well, there were records that we've reviewed that, and that I saw in Dr. Lerner's notes that she had a decline and had to use a walker and was prone to falls.
Is there a test called the Morse scale?
A fall scale.
Yeah, how does that work?
Well, I've never done it. It's like a nursing thing where they review and give them points and the.
Objection, if she hasn't done it, then she can't testify about it.
Stay.
Did you ever talk to Dr. Lerner at all?
Yeah, on the phone, the date of this visit, yes.
And that was about some of the things you've talked about in terms of her history?
Correct.
And that's why some of the information is in the record about that?
Yes.
Okay. What about Dr. Hold on a second, I want to make sure we get his right name. Dr. Ding, which is for the court reporter's edification, D-I-N-H. Did you talk to him?
No, I did not talk to him.
Okay, you never had any discussion with him?
No, that would have been in my notes, and it's not in this visit. It was just Dr. Lerner.
And you had a diagnosis based on your observations?
Based on reviewing her records and also talking with Dr. Lerner.
What was that diagnosis?
I had a few of them.
Objection.
She can give it, and you cross-examine her on it. Okay.
Yes, you can tell us what it was.
Well, the clinical impression problem list before she was discharged was delusional disorder, paranoia, borderline personality disorder, and facial contusions and possible assault.
Right. Possible assault, but you know the circumstances about what took place earlier in the day.
No, of course not.
Hold on here. Nothing else.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Good morning.
How much time did you spend with Marcia Soul on January 12th of 2017?
I cannot tell you exactly how much time. I can tell you that the chart started at 15:53, so 3:53 in the afternoon, and it appears that I discharged her at 19:55. So somewhere in there, I saw her.
All right, so that sounds like 4 hours.
But I didn't spend all that time with her.
Exactly. So how much time did you spend with her?
I don't know. I didn't use a stopwatch to time exactly how much that time I was in the room.
Okay, and you noted in your records that she had facial contusions?
I noted, yes. Let's see, that was a diagnosis, but in her physical exam, I did note that she had abrasions, bruising, and slight swelling to her lips. And yes, head, face, general facial contusions is what's in the physical.
You don't have a deep recollection of any of that, do you? You're just reading from your notes?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
And how close did you get to her when you were diagnosing her in the emergency room?
Well, I would have been standing at her bedside.
Pardon?
I would have been standing right at her bedside.
Yes. How close would that have been?
From me to the microphone?
Well, the record reflects that the witness appears to be showing about a foot.
And then, I do touch every patient. So I may, even if it's feeling their pulse, or feeling, according to here, yeah, I touched her head, no skull tenderness, no skull deformity.
Right. I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 5D. And unfortunately, this is not a very good homo. So maybe we can have the lights turned down a little bit, please. This photograph was taken at 10 o'clock that morning. Do you recognize it?
No, I've not seen this photograph.
You recognize this soul's face?
Does she recognize it? She hasn't seen this photograph before.
Do you recognize Miss Soul's face?
Check.
No.
Hold on, just stop. Objection is pending. Come.
You're not a psychiatrist, are you, Dr. Tichenor?
No, I'm not a psychiatrist.
When was the last time you had any kind of training in psychiatry?
Sometime in residency, and I finished residency in 1998.
1998?
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been, from January 17th, it would have been 10 years, 9 years, when you last looked at a psychiatric textbook or had any kind of classes whatsoever in psychiatry, correct?
We don't do psychiatric classes after, or any specific classes after residency.
Is it correct to say that you haven't had any kind of psychiatric training whatsoever since your residency in 1998?
That would be correct.
And what kind of training did you have in psychiatry when you were a resident? How many classes did you take?
I cannot remember my curriculum in residency about any of the classes or exact hours that were given.
So you don't even remember what classes you took in psychiatry in 1998?
We get trained on every kind of, how to define and evaluate and help people with all kinds of psychiatric illnesses. It's a very broad topic.
Since 1998, you don't even remember which classes you took in order to train people with psychiatry.
I'm an
correct?
emergency medicine physician, so I help people from head to toe, inside and out, so I cannot tell you specifically.
Okay. In fact, you are not trained to make psychiatric diagnosis, and what you told the defense attorney on direct is you determine whether a patient needs such a diagnosis. So you do not make those diagnoses, do you, doctor?
I do not make psychiatric diagnoses, that's correct.
Well, why would you, based upon what you just told us, write down that you believe that this woman is paranoid and that she has borderline personality disorder? Why would you do that?
So it was actually in her medical records before when I reviewed them, and then I spoke with her physician who knows her, and he said that were her diagnoses. So actually, it's actually a problem list or an impression. It's not a diagnosis. It's just what's a running topic of part of her history. I did not make those diagnoses.
An impression based upon Dr. Werder telling you that she accused a law enforcement officer of trying to kill her, correct?
Yes.
Legal base?
Assumes facts.
Was the impression that you laid out, not the diagnosis, but the impression that you put in your notes, based upon the fact that Dr. Lerner told you that this woman has claimed that she was attacked by a law enforcement officer and he tried to kill her?
No, that had nothing to do with my conversation. It was, my conversation with Dr. Lerner, it was a phone consultation, and it just says that he informed me of that she has a history of delusions and paranoia, and he suggested that a social work consult take place to see if she needed to be, it says, in a long-term care facility.
So are you telling us that when you spoke to Dr. Lerner on January the 12th, when she came to the emergency room, he did not tell you that there was a claim by her that a law enforcement officer tried to kill her by shoving pills down her throat, smothering her, and turning on her car so that she could die by carbon monoxide poisoning?
There is no sign
So you
of...
don't have any independent record of that?
Craig, let the witness answer the question, please.
I have no recollection of any of that discussion with Dr. Lerner.
So your notes right there are essentially parroting what Dr. Lerner told you about paranoia and
Delusion.
borderline personality disorder.
Right.
Nothing independent by you.
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect.
The discussion with Dr. Lerner was important to you?
Yes, because that's her primary care physician, and we try to get a hold of all the patients' primary care physicians if it seems medically necessary.
Right. And the recordation you have there is based on those discussions? It's in the record?
The impressions and problem lists.
You didn't make it up. It's based on that, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No question about that.
Correct.
Right. And you have no idea what happened at 5 in the morning or 8 in the morning or any of that with respect to her. It's
Correct.
alleged assault.
Correct.
Nothing else.
Doctor, you may step down, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Any subject to recall issues?
Not by the state.
All right, Doctor, you're released from your subpoena, so thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are back to the state's case in chief. State, call your next witness.
State calls Detective Cassandra Data.
Data.